Speeding. See, that's a fun traffic and video term.
You are quick today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Ryan has had his coffee today.
Yeah, I've had a lot of it. All right, this is Ryan and Friends, aptly titled. I'm here with Chris Zull from Progressive Companies, and as always, Allie Walker, president of Trusco Rossman. Yeah. Chris, you and I we were in LGR this past year together.
What is LGR?
It's Leadership Grand Rapids. We were members of possibly one of the greatest classes of all time.
One of the top 40.
At least top 40 classes of all time.
They not like us. We know.
They not like us, in fact. Yes. While I could probably try to give you a really good intro, I'd love to, just hear straight from you. Like, tell us about yourself.
Well, thanks, Ryan. Thank you for the opportunity to chat today. This is awesome. I'm excited to tell some stories, look backwards, maybe look forwards a little bit. So I'm a civil engineer by trade, bachelor's and master's from Michigan State. Go Green. I've got a...
Go White. Right?
That's right. There we go. I've had a fantastic opportunity. I started out in private consulting. Then I came to the city of Grand Rapids. I worked as a traffic engineer. Started in 2003 and worked up from there. Ended up managing the department starting in 2010. And then I ended up leaving the city in 2018 after 15 years of doing some awesome things together. The first roundabout in Grand Rapids, the first bike lane in Grand Rapids. And now I work for a company that is innovating all over the place as well. Progressive Companies. We're delivering an amphitheater, a soccer stadium. We are building cities. That's what I like to tell people that I do. I build cities.
Yeah. Chris, I don't even know where to begin because there's so much about your background and the work that you do. And a lot of what I've gotten to know about you being in Leadership Grand Rapids together, I think first, what I'm really fascinated by is I think the way that I've come to know how you approach creativity. When people imagine a traffic engineer, I don't think the first thing that they would think of is someone who defines themselves by their creativity per se. Can you tell me how you approach creativity in your work?
So great question. And to be fair, I'm probably not the stereotypical traffic engineer, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. I'm also married to a traffic engineer, by the way. And we've got very different styles. And thinking about creativity, so many of our standards were designed and studied decades ago. And so the mobility has clearly evolved. The big muscle cars of the 60s, our performance, our safety, our vehicles are so much better. Our technology is so much better today. But so too is that rejuvenation of downtown living, urban mobility, placemaking. So maybe we swung too far towards the auto-centric view of the world, and we're bringing it back to a human-centered design type approach, and that really gives me a lot of the opportunity to try things out, pilot, iterate. Those are some of my favorite words when we think about infrastructure, which is often static, right? But it's really quite a bit more dynamic than I think we give it credit for.
I have a question about being married to a traffic engineer. When you guys are deciding what route you're going to take to a place, is it a 20-minute discussion of what?
So, right, I'm a Android user and she's an Apple user.
Oh, man.
I was familiar with
that. I am.
Whose phone is hooked to the GPS, and then are we going to avoid detours? But I think the more interesting part is when we go on vacation, we take pictures of signs and pavement markings.
Oh, funny.
And so our pillow talk is fantastic. We speak the same language.
I love that so much. Where have you gone on vacation where you have been these traffic engineers just must be amazing? Where you've really respected the craft and seen it in action? So
I've had some fantastic opportunities, whether it's going to conferences in Miami, Toronto, Chicago. The infrastructure in the bigger cities, boy, they've really done a great job in separating and protecting and emphasizing other modes, and having those experiences. Being a tourist, not in a car, is a wonderful experience, right? So, is somebody doing it better than most? Yeah, Grand Rapids.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Internationally, though, like, are there? I mean, I think often people will cite places like Copenhagen or Amsterdam.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So their culture is been centered around cycling and walking so much, and the automobile is fit into their systems rather than being designed for, which is the opposite of the way that we've developed infrastructure. A lot of other countries don't have as much investment in roadways like we do. Traveling hours in a car is something we just decide to do regularly, but kind of in Europe, that's like, no, why would you do that? So there are countries that are absolutely further ahead in this infrastructure, and there's communities that are also very progressive. A quick little story. One of the most walkable, bikeable communities that I know of is also the one that complains the most about walkability. And so the reason that those two things come together is they're expressing their values. And so when you're hearing from the citizens, leadership pays attention to that. They focus on that. They make investments in those things. So even though, right, and so that's a good thing. So I always don't see criticism from the public as a negative. I see it as an opportunity, an expression of value for us to build upon.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about the concept of friction in many parts of my life, but I bike to work probably 80 to 90%.
He started thinking about that 2 years ago when he met me.
Yeah, nothing but friction.
Friction is an everyday.
It is. It
Yes.
is.
Yeah, but how friction can be a tool, especially imagine in your line of work, to like help guide people to do different activities or different to behave differently. Like, we're talking before we started recording about like the biker boxes. And how like that.
What are biker boxes?
Biker boxes are the green boxes at many intersections around
okay.
Grand Rapids and other places that allow bikers to go from the bike lane on the right to get into the left lane so they can turn left. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so I'm curious.
Fact check, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. Do you think about like elements of friction and how you can apply friction in certain places? I mean, you mentioned you're doing the first roundabout. Roundabouts are a way that like creates an element of friction for people in a normal or what they would otherwise consider a normal environment.
So we started by talking a little bit about building cities, but if we really dig into it, a lot of what I do is manage change, which I think really is the friction that you're talking about. So in 2010, when I became the department head for effectively what is Mobile GR today, was traffic and safety then, we had 0 miles of on-street bike lanes. It wasn't something the previous leadership engaged with at all. I had a different view of the world, and we started implementing based on a mandate. And frankly, so there's a lot of people that are really responsible from behind the scenes. So Mayor Hartwell kind of set the table. Mayor Bliss picked up that mobility interest. Green Grand Rapids with Suzanne Schultz, the planning director at the time, we ended up with a goal of 100 miles of on-street bike lanes. And at that time, we didn't know our system well enough. And so we'd come to discover we've got 600 miles of roads in Grand Rapids, and about 240 of those miles actually have pavement markings on them. So I was just asked to put bike lanes on, a significant portion, 40%-ish of the roads in Grand Rapids. And that came along with $0. There was no money. And so what happened is we evolved our value system to consider cycling with every road project. Do bikes belong here? Is there an opportunity for them here? Does it make sense in this context, in this volume, in this speed? And so we started implementing. We didn't have a master plan. It fit here, it fit there, it worked here, it didn't work there. And we started building this network segment by segment. And so through time, we made enough progress that people started to complain, well, none of these things connect. What is this piece over here and that piece? What is the vision? What is the plan?
People started to complain,
Yeah.
like
I
Ryan.
have multiple emails under
Yeah.
different aliases. Yeah.
Ryan Gajewski 100 different ways.
Right.
And so that friction, right, helped us move to a plan. Kristen Bennett did a fantastic job in pulling together the Grand Rapids mobility plan, and that's really been the guidebook. And when I left the city in 2018, we had implemented over 80 miles of on-street bike facilities, so really moved the needle. And so that change, whether it's a roundabout or accepting cyclists on the road, has been a part of kind of managing the change, evolving the culture, of mobility in and around Grand Rapids.
Now, obviously, I mentioned again before we started recording that the project that really got me excited to talk to you was the Turner Bike Highway. Is that what you call it internally?
Cycle track?
Cycle track, yeah. Which is a separate. Well, why am I describing this? Can you tell me about the Turner Cycle Track?
Absolutely. So what a great project. Progressive Companies did the design with the city of Grand Rapids. Turner Avenue, one-way street on the northwest side of town. More travel lanes than it needed for vehicles, and so we took that opportunity to repurpose some of that space and developed a two-way cycle track on a one-way street, but that also came along with a buffer and a separation, a median through there. We had to make sure that we were replacing all of the access to the many houses that are along there, as well as understanding how refuse service was going to work, how snow plowing was going to work, and we ended up with a fantastic experience. It was nationally recognized for being one of the coolest new bike facilities in the country that year, which is fantastic. And there's more to come. With a soccer stadium being built on Mount Vernon, kind of that extension of Turner, that cycle track is intended to extend further south down to Grand Valley.
Wow, that's
so
really cool.
I've been biking in Grand Rapids for over a decade, almost 15 years. And it's been really interesting to see how, and talking to people who want to cycle more, want to bike on our streets more, but are really nervous about it and are looking for places where they can, put their pedals in the water, if you will.
Sure.
And I've found, and I'm curious if you've also heard or have any feedback about, like, the cycle track is a really good way for people to experience cycling with traffic, but still separated in what feels safer.
So the infrastructure around cycling has continued to evolve in the U.S. And while we first got started in 2010, which is now 15 years ago, we've seen kind of the rise and fall of the Sharrow, right, which is that white pavement marking that kind of indicates to expect bikes, and this is where they might be. And rather it's ineffectiveness and how people are more comfortable with buffered or protected facilities, and that's absolutely been the trend lately. It's a more significant investment, of course, but you're getting that 60% in the middle, right? That are curious, maybe not as confident as the most aggressive riders, but still comfortable enough to bring along your kids and enjoy a gant down the trail, if you will.
In knowing Ryan, I have obviously started biking more because it's hard not to, talking to him every day. And it's coincided with both of my girls being able to ride bikes. They're 7 and 10. And we went biking last week, and I was like, let's do a 20-minute bike ride, like start really practicing being able to do longer bike rides together. And seeing my little 7-year-old baby in her little bike, appropriately sized, but little bike on the road, and still we were on Argentina, so not a busy street, but seeing her on the road, us following the rules with a big truck driving by her, I was like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that our community has evolved its perspective on cycling, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Are we looking for cyclists? Are we mindful of those vulnerable road users? as we're moving around. And the city has a vision 0, right? We have a goal of 0 fatalities, and that's frankly the right number.
Yep.
And that's all of us playing our roles appropriately. Safety is everybody's responsibility.
Yep.
And so I agree with you. I'm nervous. I've got some teenage drivers,
Yeah.
so in a little different sense, but
Yeah.
still, I'm talking with them. You're looking for pedestrians. You're looking for motorcycles. You're looking for bikes.
Yep.
It's your responsibility as a driver. Safety, everybody's safety is so paramount.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan is a big helmet advocate.
Yeah. I tell everyone to wear a helmet.
He taught my older daughter to yell at people
Yep.
who are not wearing
Harass
a helmet.
people who
Wear
don't
a helmet.
helmets.
So let's talk about that just a little bit.
Please.
What an interesting message. Communicating to others the expectation of culture
Yeah.
is how we get better at being safer drivers, behaving better as a motorist or as a cyclist. So yes, let's call each other out and find ways to encourage each other to behave better.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
love it.
though, like in a Midwest nice way, like, excuse me, wear a helmet.
Have you considered saving your life?
So I have a similar story. I'm out in Seattle, dragging my luggage out to the cruise ship, and I find myself along the waterfront, and there's 2 trails. There's a straight trail, and there's a windy trail. And we find ourselves on the straight trail, and we get approached by another pedestrian that says, hey, for your safety, pedestrians are supposed to be on the windy trail. Oh, okay, thank you. Obviously, we're not from here.
Yeah.
We've got our luggage, so all right, we make our way over to the windy trail, and eventually we find ourselves back on the straight trail again. Then we get approached again by another person that had the same message. For your safety, this is the fast spot for bikes. The windy trail is for pedestrians, so if you could just use the windy
wow.
trail. So 2 different people. I'm certain that they don't teach each other
Yes.
that message, but
Yeah.
there was a culture of mobility, right? And so I've seen the culture of mobility evolve in Grand Rapids, and we need to continue that behavior.
Yeah, and of community, of
Absolutely.
like, want this to be here for all of us
Yeah.
kind of thing. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Is there anything in closing like that you're looking at the horizon? We already talked obviously about some of those developments coming to downtown, but what are you thinking about going forward? What are the things on your horizon?
Yeah, so Oxford Trail in the Black Hills, there's a lot of momentum for a trail and park development there. We did that design. It's going to be a fantastic addition to downtown. And then just continue to be mindful. We are going through a growing phase, right? And we're all going to learn together. So patience, safety is everybody's responsibility. And I'm so excited for the next version of Grand Rapids.
Me too. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.